And thank you once again for joining us here on PM Express. Remember, PM Express is always brought to you by Syntex Tanks, also brought to you by Cherry Tree Properties, Alomo Bitters, and by the Ghana AIDS Commission. And no matter your water needs, Syntex Tanks has it all. Syntex Tanks is first to introduce the double layer tank, and now you can have as many layers as you want. Syntex Tanks is first to introduce the white inner layer tanks in Ghana. We now also introduce you the customer specs order. It is bespoke. You can order your size, your color, and just call them with your preference. Syntex Tanks gives you the longest warranty of 7 years, which no other tank gives you in Ghana. So whatever your water consumption, size, or project or demand, just choose Syntex Tanks. They are nationwide. You can call them on 0244 335-168, 0244-335-168, or shop online at syntexgh.com. Syntex Tank, a strong, a tough. Also, desires are wishes. Beauty is a promise of happiness, but passion is everything. And that is why you need to call Cherry Tree Properties, because if you're thinking about a new home, talk to those who build with passion. They have Sloan Square. It's a new gated community development in Sakomono, developed by Cherry Tree Properties, a one-of-a-kind planned luxury you've never experienced. Please call them on 0553-662-366, 0553-662-366. Cherry Tree Properties, sophistication and class. My guest tonight is a man who has been stirring the pot lately. And many people watch and listen to him and wonder, why in God's name is he still bothering about a country many have given up on? I'm talking about our beloved Ghana. Recently, he's delivered another speech, one that had many people talking. Even the title of that speech alone, it's thought-provoking. He called it Towards a Mindset Revolution. And we'll ask him what that is. Ghana Beyond Neoliberal Capitalism. Was the Fourth Republic a miracle that led nowhere? That's a question. Hopefully, we get an answer. But then we'll challenge him on some of the things he'd said and see if indeed he believes, like many of his colleagues who he started with, and I read his speech and he mentions a lot of them. They Ed Kinke, for example, at Nima. They've given up on this country, or maybe tired, as he says, or maybe simply retired. Those are two interesting words, and they rhyme. He's my guest. He is Yaw Nsarkoh. By the way, you wonder who that is? He's a former executive vice president of Unilever. Yaw, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you, Evans. Thanks for having me.
And I want to start from there. I'm a young man, so I'm going to start from the perspective. It's always best when you go to a place you're comfortable. I read the full speech. Listening to it was exciting, but reading it was a whole different experience. And I'm looking at myself as a young 40-year-old, and of course you, who Ed Kinke with all those greats at Nima. And even me, I feel tired at 40. So I was not surprised that you sort of guessed they may be tired or retired. But what is it about Ghana that makes you still very passionate about it when many people, even young like myself, are beginning to feel a bit tired talking about the same thing over and over again? What moves you? What still gets you going every morning?
Well, first is thank you. Your question made me smile, but some of the things that you said before also made me smile, because even I am in my 50s. I'm also called young, and I see that you two call yourself young, but the youth policy, if I understand it right, defines young to be 18 to 35. So in Ghana, even when you're 70, if somebody is 90, they say you're a young person. So that's quite interesting, and it's a good and optimistic orientation towards life. What is it that makes me passionate about the country? Well, it's not only the country, the continent, people of the global south generally. Some call it very free. I am very passionate about society and wanting to improve society. This is, I believe, the one life that we will lead. And while we are here, we have to try and make the long-term health of society better. This is what drives me, and especially those of us who the back-breaking exertion of the ordinary people of this country. I went to public university, more or less free. The people who produce that wealth that commonwealth, in order for me to be able to gain an education and a profession as an engineer, are the people who are toiling in the cocoa farms, the KIAs and so on and so. They pay VAT, etc. It is their contribution that has got us where we are. So those of us who have benefited, and we can say to a large extent, people like yourself, like me, like many of the other people who are the British Council or the professionals and so on, we are the fortunate ones in the society. I believe that we have a responsibility to this country, to the people of the continent, to society at large, to try to make it better so that the large numbers of people are able to access dignity. At the end of the day, for me, that's what development is about. It's about dignity, a search for dignity.
I mean, and there are many like you, and thankfully you cited many of them, who've gone on the path, who've charted this, who've talked about this, and been passionate about it. But the problem still persists. The dignity you talk about, many people still believe they haven't experienced it, and the numbers tell the story. In fact, as recently as just this year, we've seen several reports from the Statistical Service telling us how many more people are unemployed, worse than before. We're talking about inflation in historic territory still, after all these years of activism. If nobody had managed to do this, to crack this conundrum, why believe things will change now going forward?
Well, it's not me. I'm not trying to change it as an individual. I am saying to the society, are we happy with the conditions in which we live? Open defecation around 18%. If you believe the census numbers, around 20% of our compatriots live in containers and kiosks. Galamsey ransacking our body politic. You can continue the list of misery that I can talk to, and I don't want to do that. Are we happy with the conditions? If we say we give up, exactly what do we mean? That we fossilize the society, and those who are left out at this point in time should just accept it? We must remember James Baldwin, famous dangerous creation of any society is the man with nothing to lose. And we in our society today have many who have nothing to lose. So if we think that we can just leave so many people out of the fruits of development and nation building and somehow keep it stable, we deceive ourselves. And these were the points I was trying to make. Jean-Paul Sartre also famously said, only the one who is not rowing has time to rock the boat. You are not going to go around and destroy things and so on because you must be here. You're doing your work. You're engaged. But if we leave large numbers of people, they have nothing to occupy their time, they will find something. And in the lecture, I quoted my very good friend, Dr. Nzamo Masito, a guy who I have a great deal of respect for, who said, the poor cannot sleep because they are hungry. And the rich cannot sleep because the poor are awake. And I'll end it on another thing that I said during the speech, where I said, it's been famously said, it's not me, I didn't originate it, I have said when the poor have nothing to eat, they will eat the rich.
But then they haven't eaten the rich in 30 years, at least in the Fourth Republic. And so the rich and the elite, as you call it, possibly have collapsed into this elite compromise, knowing that they've not been eating after all. I mean, after 30, they look back, oh goodness, I've escaped being eating. Maybe there's a confidence that this will not happen. The Ghanaians simply haven't got the stomach to rise and demand what is rightfully theirs.
It is very interesting because what you say points to a feature of our national character that I find confounding, which is the shortness of our attention span. It's something that I'm actually very critical of the media too for, because if the media has stamina and can campaign issues, you do not fall into a cycle where people forget so easily. If you are born, you are 40 years old, so if I do the calculation, it's 1983.
Yes.
So it's 4 years.
Right in the thick of it, yes.
So it's 4 years after what I call the first Jerry Rawlings sensation, which was the Armed Forces Revolutionary Council. What happened? How many generals were lined up in the streets and shot without trial? People were taken into and caned, market women and so on and so forth. This country degenerated into institutional tyranny. That's what I call it. And already people say to me that, no, we've never seen an explosion in this country. What was it? 3 former heads of state were shot at the stakes. Do we want to go back there? So when the people of Ghana say, no, we are not like that, as for us, it will always be okay, it's just a collective amnesia of things that have gone wrong in this society before. And let us remember that I was alive at that time. In 1979, I was 11. So I still remember these things. They happened. When you were born in 1983, I was in Form 2 or Form 3 at the time. So I still remember those things, and we saw them. There are causative factors that created these disruptions. This is a fourth republic, which means what? We have been through a first republic, with the soldiers kicked out, a second republic, which again the soldiers kicked out, a third republic, with the soldiers kicked out. We are beginning to see the features of some of the things that went wrong, and we must start to have the conversation now. We don't want to go back to those days. If the Fourth Republic will endure and become the last, then we need to change some of the things that we did in the past that created those sorts of disruptions. To be clear, I do not want it. I am against every single coup that has happened in our history. 1966, 72, 80, 79, 82, 83, and I know that some people, even when it comes to 79, etc., they say, no, that we needed an intervention. I say, it is not the role of the armed forces to intervene to run a country on behalf of the civic polity. And therefore, by definition, I'm against all coups. But at the same time, I know that if you allow misgovernance into a body politic, you create spaces for a populist. It's not necessarily even a military populist. You create spaces for a populist to emerge. So we must be as concerned about good governance as we are about condemning military coups and so on and so forth. We say in our language, kuku kuku nu jaya, kike kike nu bejai. It's up to us when the kuku kuku starts to see it as a leading signal, and for all of us to step up and say, we need to sanitize the civic space, or else where this country will go is a place that we do not want.
For that to happen, the young must step in, must take up the baton. You say the new young must assume the struggle for a better tomorrow now. Is it your belief that you are not seeing the same verve among the young of today like you saw back in the day when people like yourself, Kwesi Pratt and others, the president, we'll spend some time talking about him, led from the front at Kwame Preko, and I was sitting with the Ahunu Honga because I grew up just across the street from here, playing that day on the school wall, and my parents came to call me. I saw the ACDRs, I think they're called, with their Humvees and rushing across all the way to UTC that day when he was shot because he was sitting on the wall and he fell back into the school and died. Till today we still remember his name, and I saw his name in your speech. He was young then. I was a kid then. You believe today we appreciate sacrifices such as that, and the young, for what you're proposing to happen, have what it takes, the stomach for the fight ahead?
Yeah, why do the young not have the stomach? Do they want better living conditions? Yes, the young want better living conditions. I'm not one of those who believes that the generation before had a superior DNA makeup or superior genetics. They were ordinary people. Ahunu Honga was 14. I get emotional when we talk about Ahunu. Yeah. Because I believe that up till now, the Fourth Republic has betrayed him. He was a seminal figure. He's somebody who must be celebrated the way South Africa celebrates, he and the 4 others who died. But the way the South Africans, for example, celebrates the victims of the Soweto massacre. And this is why I keep talking about it, that you cannot allow people to become victims of a struggle for freedom and a better tomorrow, and then you just forget about them. And there are many people in our society who we just move on. But when you talk about young people, actually, at the time of Kwame Preko, if I remember correctly, the current president was already in his 50s. So he was not necessarily a young, but in the context of Ghana, he was in the bracket of people that we call the young exciting politicians.
Yeah.
But Nana Akufo-Addo's emergence onto the political scene in this country was not Kumi Preku. People's Movement for Freedom and Justice, they have forgotten he was in his 20s at the time when he emerged as the General Secretary. People should check the facts, they will see. And he was working with veterans at the time. William Oforiatta, Akwesi Amankwah Frifa, Kojo Adubuahi, and so on and so forth, Komla Gbedema. So you had an intergenerational movement, which is today absent. What I was trying to point to, I was 24, but I was sitting at the front table of the Alliance for Change. They were willing to have me there. Today, does that happen? So I'm not here to trash the youth or say they have let down the country. I'm saying that as a population, we have to start to have that kind of intergenerational conversation again. The youth of today are no different from the youth of any era. They too want better conditions. They want to live a better life. They want good housing. They want good food. They want good clothes. They want sanitation. They want good health. They want education, etc. They want to get married, have a family. And it is these concerns that drive people. Che Guevara himself said the revolutionary is driven by love. So this sort of empty militancy, people just go, he says a revolutionary is driven by love. It is a willingness to see society become better that drives a revolutionary, not the sort of empty wildcat orientation towards violence and so on that we've come to associate with the word. That's why Fidel Castro, people don't read the book for yourself, describe Jesus Christ as a revolutionary. So when you're talking mindset revolution and so on, which you say we will come to.
What is it, by the way? What is mindset revolution?
Amilcar Cabral and many others famously spoke about. Amilcar Cabral said the first dimension of revolution must necessarily be cultural. Because when you wake up and you say we need to improve, that is an indictment on your current circumstances. The insight into the condition calls for critical reflection and a re-examination of the circumstances that you are in. That is mindset revolution. Waking up in the morning, looking around you, saying that the conditions that we are living in, we must improve, and we can improve, and we must find a way. And therefore, we need to do things differently. You are in the process of a mindset revolution.
But that then raises significant questions, considering how far we've come since Nkrumah, who actually started talking about this when it talks about the new African, when he started challenging us to change our mindset back then. It's shocking, is it not, that after all these years, 60 years plus, we celebrate him, and coincidentally recently refurbished his mausoleum, and we are still talking about mindset revolution in 2023. We failed, have we not?
Well, I leave it to everybody to make up their mind. I do know that when he stood at the old polo grounds and he said that the black man must show to the world that he's capable of running his own affairs, I do not believe that Ghana in 2023 today fulfills that brief. If there's somebody who believes that it does, I'd like to see the person put up his hand. And I've spoken to many people. Some of them were students of that generation. Some of them were young people who were working. I like to sit with much older people who have seen it all. They've seen Ghana unfold and come through. And I asked them all the time, I said, is this what you expected? And almost universally, the answer is no. We had great expectations. We thought we were going to be like one of the Southeast Asian countries, etc. We have not delivered on that. The choice we have is to say, do we sit down and mourn the past? Mourn expectations that have not been delivered, or do we learn from those and say to ourselves that we will recreate the future?
Are we capable of learning from our mistakes? Because in 60 plus years, we've been making a lot of them. And
at Rocket, we know buying a home is exciting and a bit overwhelming. Ready to buy a home but stressed about writing those big checks? Rocket can help you save. When you buy with Rocket Homes and finance with Rocket Mortgage, you can get up to $10,000 cash toward closing from Rocket Mortgage. It's a pretty big deal. And one you can get only with Rocket. Visit onlywithrocket.com to get started today.
For purchase transactions only, must log rate between 331 and 831. Call 8337-ROCKET for conditions and restrictions. Equal housing lender licensed in all 50 states. NMLS ConsumerAccess.org, number 3030.
Right now at Wendy's, when you buy either a Dave's Single, Spicy Chicken Sandwich, Medium Frosty, or 10-piece nuggets, you can get another for just $1. Your dollar never tasted so good. So it's obvious what everyone will get, right?
Definitely nugs
Spicy
and
chicken
a Frosty.
sandwich,
Dave's single and a Frosty for me.
and a Frosty.
Okay, who said Frosty and a Frosty? Pick your obvious choice. Choose wisely. Choose Wendy's, buy one, get one for $1.
Limited time only. Price of participation may vary. U.S. Wendy's, valid for item of equal or lesser value. Cannot be combined in a combo or any other offer.
Repeating them. Do you have any faith that we can learn and improve?
That is a question that seems to be asking me whether I believe the Ghanaian is a human being. And the answer is yes, the Ghanaian is a human being. If you're a human being, then you can learn. A human being is...
But the evidence says that it's actually possibly contrary to the fact, yes, we're human beings. We are expected, we should be learning. By 60 odd years, we make the same mistakes over and over again. We have introduced many agricultural policies, and you mentioned them. The latest incarnation of it is planting of food and jobs. We had similar in the 80s, in the 70s. And yet, and you rightly mentioned that food inflation is skyrocketing. Isn't that a proof that we are simply incapable?
No, it is not. The one of the, I don't say you are one, but one of the incarnations of neoliberals that I condemn the most is their incapacity to think long term. And you know, you see a huge amount of external evidence of religion, but the deep spiritual reflection of the things that it says, we don't seem to imbibe as a people. Christian religion, for example, is the one that I know the best, so I forgive other people if they feel I use too many examples from there. Does it not talk about a year being nothing to the Almighty? Because you're talking about eternity. When we talk about the sort of future that we want to live in, the sort of Ghana that we want to create, we're not talking about a quarter. Neoliberal fixation on the returns that you're going to give to the shareholder, and therefore the stock market is asking for a quarter. No, you are building a civilization for the future. This is something that the current president himself used to talk about a lot, that we're not constructing a production machine. Go back to his John Kuglenu Memorial Lectures, British Council Hall also. You will see that he said that. We are creating a civilization for the future. Now, if you're creating a civilization for the future, there's absolutely nothing wrong with acknowledging that there have been 60 years. You haven't done as well as you can do, but it has to start from somewhere. You take the Chinese Revolution, there was Mao Zedong. Then came Deng Xiaoping. They too could have done 1978. It's as recent as that. What you see in China today started with the reforms of Mao. People forget that, but it was very important that Mao Zedong came and cleaned up land reforms and totaled the dynasties and so on and so forth, created an egalitarian society, one that could be mobilized, disciplined, hardworking people. But yes, he made mistakes. The famine of the Cultural Revolution, 1958 to 1961, I believe. And then in 78, Deng Xiaoping emerged. And from 1978 to 1989 was when he had 11 years. The basis for what today is called the Chinese reforms was done in 11 years. Yes, when he left office, he didn't totally leave the political scene. But when he was officially in charge, it was, and see what he did with it. So, yes, we must, of course, not deny that we have not done as well as we could have. If you look at many relevant benchmarks, we could have done much, much better. But it doesn't mean that you don't give up on the future. The hip-hop singer famously said, we try or we die trying. That has to be the way that we approach it.
My guest is Yaw Nsarkoh, and as you may have noticed, he is an activist, but he's also a Pan-Africanist. I'm going to take a quick break. When I return, he's written a love letter to the president. We'll get into that. Because he asks a few questions of the president that I need to get him to expand on. We'll talk about it now when we return from this break. Stay with me.
Daddy, this tank is big.
Yes, that's true.
It can store a lot of water.
That's so true.
Wow, it has a working tortoise on it.
That's so true.
I can see Sintex. Sintex.
That is so true, my daughter.
When it falls down, it will spoil.
That's not true.
But why?
Hey! Sintex was the first to introduce double-layer tanks in Ghana. Sintex again was the first to introduce white inner layers in Ghana. Sintex gives you the biggest warranty, 7 years. No matter your water needs, Sintex is the answer. Sintex tank. Are you strong? Are you tough?
Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to demonstrate to you the superior properties of Flamingo paint. As compared to other paint brands on the market, we take equal quantities of Flamingo paint and this ordinary paint. We then dilute them with water. And now, let the test begin. The gentleman on the left is going to apply the ordinary paint, and the gentleman on my right will use the Flamingo superior paint. As you can clearly see, Flamingo has the obvious better hiding. Furthermore, Flamingo has painted a much larger area. You know, 1 bucket of Flamingo paint is equal to several buckets of any other paint brand on the market. Flamingo paint is made with superior formulation to give superior durability, superior hiding, superior coverage. Flamingo paint, simply superior.
Crazy pa. Don't say no to me. Whiskey. Wash. All of a sudden, my voice I hear different. And when you saw a call. Barman, bring me the honey whiskey. You know the one? Black Rock whiskey. Honey whiskey. Chalet, honey near their frau. Black Rock whiskey is strong. Now so taste me is smooth and it goes down easy. Excuse me. Barman. Barman. Bring my friend 1 Black Rock whiskey.
Black Rock whiskey, blended with natural honey flavor.
Hey, what's up?
Barman.
Hey, what the hell for Sikanton Sada? The pure Bintoman, no. Oh.
Black Rock whiskey, Tabby, the feel is smoothness, no.
Drink responsibly. Not for sale to persons under 18 years of age and not recommended for pregnant women. This advertisement has been vetted and approved by the FDA.
There are days when you think, whoa, today I've earned it. So order a Glovo. Days when plans run longer. What if we order a Glovo? Or days when you can't control everything. Oh yes, because on Glovo, you can order anything you want. Glovo, you order, we deliver.
Daddy, this tank is big.
Yes, that's true.
It can store a lot of water.
That's so true.
Wow, it has a working tortoise on it.
That's so true.
I can see Sintex. Sintex.
That is so true, my daughter.
When it falls down, it will spoil.
That's not true.
But why?
Hey! Sintex was the first to introduce double-layer tanks in Ghana. Sintex again was the first to introduce white inner layers in Ghana. Sintex gives you the biggest warranty, 7 years. No matter your water needs, Sintex is the answer. Sintex tank. Are you strong? Are you tough?
There are days when you think, whoa, today I've earned it. So order a Glovo. Days when plans run longer. What if we order a Glovo? Or days when you can't control everything. Oh yes, because on Glovo, you can order anything you want. Glovo, you order, we deliver.
Can he tee up someone in red? And it goes to one!
What 5 Champions League? You want to know? I be the real goat, Chairman. I be the real goat. The left magician.
Who is the goat? Ghana Jollof or Nigerian Jollof?
Ghana Jollof has no co-equal. The
smell alone. Oh my God. On that shift. You two they lie, eh? Now the same stew when they use cook the rice and then they go put them for top. Hey! You are lying. Ghana jollof.
Are you here? Forget everybody, yeah? My guy, put your papa in the jar and put some respect on the goat. On the goat? The only goat I know lives in Tama. Every year, we give to you back. We are talking about PET. I want some Yajiaji face. Except be the goat, huh? My guy, he be the goat.
Though our choice of goats may differ in football, music, and jollof, Alomo Bitters always brings us together. Alomo, experience greatness in every moment.
Drink responsibly. Not for sale to persons under 18 and recommended to pregnant women. This advert is FDA approved.
And thank you very much for staying with us here on PM Express. My name is Evans Mensah, and I'm having a conversation with Yaw Nsarkoh. And he just mentions his name. Normally on PM Express, I'll just mention the person and mention his designation. But he insists he's just a citizen, not a spectator. And that is a quote that was made pretty famous locally. It's not that he owned it, but he made it famous locally by a man who currently occupies the Jubilee House. He is Nana Dankwa Akufo-Addo. And it is to him next that I turn, Yaw, because you wrote a letter to him. Why?
Well, he is in the driver's seat. We can avoid the fact that he's in the driver's seat. He is the chief executive of the state, the chief magistrate of the land. He's the president of the republic. He's the commander-in-chief. If he is determined to make a difference, he can make a difference.
Isn't he, though? Well, he certainly must be determined to make a difference.
You have to ask him. I cannot answer that on his behalf. But all I can say is that what I knew of him and what I know he's capable if he's determined, I think that the 1.5 years that are left can be different from the way the 6 years have gone. That's.
And why did you feel the need to write a letter to him?
Well, first is that I have a great deal of goodwill for him and for anyone who tries to go into leadership. I'm myself not at all inclined to want to be in public office for any reason. So I have a great deal of respect for those who try. They are in the arena. It's not easy. It's easier for those who are commenting. Yeah. So first is that I have anybody who offers themselves for that sort of job, I have a great deal of respect for and admiration. And I am therefore keen that they are at least operating in a context where they are able to give their very, very best. What we can do to encourage people who offer themselves, because we collapse into this sort of situation where people who are people's friends think that the way to be good friends is to be sycophantic and flatterers. And so I said it in the speech that those who criticize me, because there are many, who say that I have no respect for the president, I have no goodwill, I speak about his predecessor and so on and so forth with disdain, and that's absolutely not true. I think that if you care about people, if you really want them to do the best that they can, then at least the way you see the truth, you should make it available to them. One of the things that good friends do for each other is that they hold the mirror up for each other, and that's all that I was trying to do.
So this is your way of getting him back. I don't know, because let me read that. Let me just quote that, because I was saying back because you asked the question, what happened to the charismatic and magical human rights lawyer called Nana Akufo-Addo once he became president? What happened to the intrepid campaigner for human rights? And this is Kwesi Pratt, but stay on the present. I saw that at least a few times you asked the question, what happened? Do I get a sense that the man you knew before and the man you see now, there has been a change, not necessarily for the better, but possibly a retrogression?
Well, I would say, to say the man himself has changed, it means that I have to have a a very deep understanding, and I haven't seen Akufo-Addo in some years now. So I won't want to make that sort of a radical declaration when I don't have the facts and evidence before me. But what I definitely can say is that what I expected of an Akufo-Addo presidency and what I see of the presidency, yes, the actual experience has fallen short of my expectations.
What were your expectations? And that's I guess that's what
he was. I mentioned not just him, by the way, in that letter. I also mentioned that I had a long chat with 5 hours sitting next to John Dramani Mahama. I don't know whether he remembers, from Johannesburg to Accra. And he painted a vision of collaboration, of togetherness, of, especially like you, he was talking a lot about the younger politicians, because John Dramani Mahama was once also a young man, and he was in the broad bracket of the Akufo-Addos, etc., even though Akufo-Addo is older than he is. He too was seen as a young guy, and I was asking him many questions. What are you going to do as a young politician? He was telling me about inter-party alliances, the younger people needing to come together, galvanize, create a new kind of politics. Very exciting stuff, but he had the chance. Where is it? It's the same with Akufo-Addo. Akufo-Addo was a magnetic figure when he stood up to speak about his vision. Many people didn't see him at the peak of his influence and power. So when we talk about it, they don't know what we are. Go back. I don't know whether it was recorded. See him, John Kublenu Memorial Lectures. I think he did it over 3 days. See Nana Akufo-Addo in the Supreme Court of Ghana in those days. And even before that, the young Akufo-Addo, People's Movement for Freedom and Justice. And then tell me whether the man that you see today is a reflection of that. That's all that I'm asking.
And those of us who stayed abroad, and I'm leading to a question, you come back home, you stay within the culture and the system that has been built over time, with all your energy you come back with, seeking to make change. Eventually, the story goes, the system just sucks you in, and then you begin to conform. From outside, of course, he saw a different picture, that he could make a difference. Is it simply, using that example, like all others before him who have tried to do something, fallen short, that the system is simply not built to change? At least the radical change that you're proposing is simply not built to change.
So let's change the system.
But who will?
Us, you and I.
But that is an amorphous bunch of people. Somebody must definitely start the fire.
No, there are 32 million people in this country. At the last check, maybe it's gone up a little bit. Are you more Ghanaian than any of them?
That leads me to a question actually I really wanted to ask. That leads me to the question I really, because we've talked a lot about the elite and the politician and the Nanado. You say the answers must be obvious. Ordinary people can be misled by such slogans, right? So the politicians keep minting them. They are meaningless, veritable examples of miracles and promises that led nowhere. My question to you is, now who caused them? Is it the gullible electorate, or the desperate, the power-desperate politician?
No, since I'm before you, I would say the media is a big part of this. Why is it so easy to mislead people? Where is the media when it comes to reminding people of the promises that they made, holding people accountable? How many people in Ghana know, for example, the granular commitments that Ghana Beyond Aid made? Are we aware that it was promised that it would grow 10% per annum, etc., manufacturing will move to 20%? Why do they not know? Then I asked the question, who did Yvonne Nelson have an issue with? Everybody in Ghana has the answer to that. So does the media have the priorities right? And the reason I am singling out the media is because I'm before you. If I was before the educational sector, I would speak about education. If I was before pastors, I would be talking about what you do with religion. But because I am before the media, I'm also asking you the question. When we say that there is a flood in May, June, and then in July, we are in July now, the flood, nobody's talking about the floods, no? We will wake up again in May 2024, and then you guys will be running around and showing clips. So I'm also challenging...
Except that we do. We talk
I'm
about
challenging
the
the media.
floods.
I'm also challenging the media and saying, well, the media played a Herculean role in getting the Fourth Republic. The private press, at a point in time when the opposition was not even represented in Parliament, it was the media that was carrying the voice of people. Where is the media too?
Well, I'll circle back to my question about the system, and Nado possibly he's been coerced into the system and returned to the people. There's no media without the people. So I return to my question. The people have agency too. Isn't all this really at the center of it all? The people, they make the decisions. They have agency. And isn't the problem we are talking about largely due to the gullibility of the Ghanaian being exploited by the politician and maybe the wayward press?
Now, let us assume, without accepting that your premise is right, because I don't necessarily think that Ghanaians are as gullible as we make them out.
But they take the money and vote for the politicians.
Yeah, because they do not care. Why is it that when it comes to, say, the election of the Asantehene, they don't use money to influence who come? They keep fidelity to the traditions and the cultures that have been long established. The state, if you read Chinua Achebe's Man of the People, when the coup happened, Chinua Achebe's people said, the guy said, they say government don't fall down for city. The state has become decoupled from the people. It is a meaningless entity that does nothing for the people, and therefore they don't care about it. They've become alienated to the whole idea of democracy. Democracy is no longer delivering regenerative outcomes about which they care, because they've seen party come, party go, politician come, politician go, and their circumstances don't change. So they take a little bit of money and they throw but if you want to create a future that is different, people have to have a stake in society.
But they do.
No, what is the stake in society when
you go to the polls and cast your ballot?
Yes, but what does it change?
Because they're not voting for the right people.
No, they have voted for party after party. The main options that they have done it.
They are independents who put themselves up for elections, and they say, I don't want to waste my vote. So they prefer to go with the NDC and the MPP. You're giving them a pass.
No, the independents are also, it's not just that you get up and you say, I'm an independent, and therefore the people must vote because I'm an alternative. You have to have a machine. Organization determines everything. So you also have to do that. So I cannot.
But why do the people deserve a pass when they make the decisions? They elect the presidents. They make the decisions about those who actually make decisions on their behalf.
Listen, the elite in this country, they create the policy framework for selection.
But for them to get there to make the decision, the people must put them there.
Yes, the people must put them there, but you can create a bias in society so that the ruling classes, this is why Marx famously said the law it represents the prejudices of the ruling class. We have created, and this is why I say when we talk about the system, we have to change the system. The system is not ordained from God. It's not when the biblical reference was made, what God has put asunder, together, let man not put asunder. It was not referring to neoliberal capitalism and neoliberal democracy. We must make some changes to that so that the agency of the people can be properly reflected. Today, this system is over-monetized. CDD spoke about it. Did the media pick it up and have real conversations about it when he said $100 million in a country with a GDP per capita that is less than 75 billion, you need $100 million to become president. That's just the person who wins. We have not talked about the opposition person. We've not talked about parliamentary candidates, etc. Where is the room for the poor man?
I mean, let me put it to you that amount is so because that's the expectation of the people. When the politicians go to campaign, the people expect to be paid. They expect to get some money. They want the interim benefit of a 50 cities now instead of the great policies and ideas of the person. They'll tell you, now ideas will go chop. That is why the politicians keep spending and spending, because when they go to campaign, the people expect. If you go with words and good intentions, you will lose elections.
Tell me, I ask you the question, they're the same people. How much money did the Asantehene pay to become Asante? How much money did the Wana pay?
But the two systems are absolutely different. The man was ordained to be Asantehene by birth.
No, you misunderstand the traditions. There is a contest. Go back and look at it. He did not emerge alone. The system throws up a few eligible people, even more than a few.
Yeah, but yes, still a few people vote in that process.
No, so why
it's
don't
not open up to everybody else in the Ashanti region to vote.
Okay, so what has
that's an entirely different process.
No, what has stopped us from evolving a process that also enables us to keep fidelity to our culture, to integrity, and use that to select our leaders.
But you raise about anytime I've asked you this question, you take refuge in a traditional system.
No, I don't.
But you complain that the same traditional system has led to the land tenure system that you've been complaining about. The chieftain system is broken. I've heard that so many times. So obviously they aren't also serving the original purpose for which they were set up.
Again, I say that the neoliberal fascination with 2x2 matrices. Everything in this world must fit in one of the quadrants. No, I belong more to the Gestalt approach, the Gestalt philosophy, psychodynamic philosophy, which says that you can have contrasting thoughts in your brain simultaneously. Dialectical thinking is about that. You take thesis and antithesis, you put it together. The cross-fertilization, the pollination, the cross-pollination of that exercise creates new thoughts. So I'm not one of those who says wholesale embrace tradition or wholesale reject tradition. Take some of the things that work well from our traditional systems. Learn from China. Learn from wherever we want to take things, Singapore, wherever Kagame, what he's doing in Rwanda, etc. Take from all of those things and fashion something that works for your circumstances. When you go to China, they often say to you, we have never claimed to discover a universal recipe, like the neoliberals say, Francis Fukuyama. There is an end of history and the last man. The human being is not capable of institutionalizing anything beyond the free markets and democracy as we know it now. That is ridiculous to think in those sorts of terms. So we must look at our societal context and say, what is it that we need to put in place that can catapult and propel the society to a place where people can get access to dignity. And that is where the conversation starts from.
Who must lead this? Who do you recommend should take the bull by the horn and start this fire?
Why not you? Why not me? Why not anybody else?
Yeah, I mean, but that leaves a situation where nobody does it.
No, why do we think that?
But isn't that why we have leaders?
No, we have a surplus supply of people who every cycle are trying. I've lost count. How many people are trying to become presidents now? So we don't have a problem with people offering themselves. We create that thing. We say that people say they talk, but they don't want to do it. Yes, I've never wanted to be a party politician. I've never been a member of a registered political party because I'm not somebody who is constrained by an organization. This is the manifesto. I can't say anything beyond that. No, I can't live my life like that. So I want to be independent, and that's a choice for me. But there are some people who can do that. Every electoral cycle, there have been more candidates than we can count. So this is not a question of that people are not willing to come up for leadership. But when they do come up for leadership, they have to understand what is at stake. You are dealing with the lives of 32 million people, and they expect you to deliver. What is the system that we put in place to make that happen? That's the conversation we must have.
Yaw Nsarkoh is still my guest on PM Express. When we return, we would talk about what difference, really, can he, myself, and others who believe that the future really can change. What difference can we really make in this environment of ours? We'll try and drill down a bit to that. And what does that difference look like? I mean, imagine the Ghanaian promise. What is it? Can we define it for a second? Have we even defined that? I'll ask him that question. What is his Ghanaian dream? I'll ask him to define that. Please stay with me. Okay.
My name is Tina. I am a person living with HIV. I got to know my HIV status after I gave birth and lost the child because of HIV. In those days, prevention of mother-to-child transmission services had low patronage due to fear and stigmatization. Today, many HIV-positive women have delivered negative children. I follow the guidelines and take my HIV medicine called ARVs every day, as prescribed by my doctor. This makes me strong and healthy, and also prevent me from passing HIV onto any future child. Please, avail yourself of PMTCT services when pregnant. It is the only way to ensure you do not pass the HIV onto your baby during birth or pregnancy. If you have tested for HIV recently and it was negative, test again when pregnant. If you have tested positive, go to the hospital after birth as directed by your healthcare provider. Your baby will be given medicine immediately and tested to ensure baby and mother are well. Let us work together to have an HIV-free generation.
Our children must be free to shine.
We've had news file over the weekend, and an interesting part of the conversation focused.
Oh no, we are out of range.
Oh, don't worry, Daddy. I have Alexa in my bag.
Alex, what?
Alexa, open Multimedia Ghana and play Joy FM.
Super Hits Radio, Joy 99.7.
Listen to Joy FM, Hits FM, Love FM, live on your Amazon Echo. Listen to your favorite multimedia radio stations live on your Amazon Echo device by saying, Alexa, open Multimedia Ghana, play Joy FM or Hits FM or Love FM. Or catch up on your favorite podcast by saying, Alexa, play, and then the name of your favorite podcast from Multimedia Ghana. For a list of all podcasts available, say Alexa. Ask Multimedia Ghana to browse programs.
And we are back like we never lost signal.
Alexa, welcome to Multimedia.
Hello, my name is Abeku Agri Santana. If there's anything that makes my life so easy, it is my bank. I love hanging out with my boys at our usual fufu joint. But even without cash, we still dey chop better with EcoBank Mobile. No matter the time of day, my bank helps me stay in touch with my beautiful wife whenever she's away. And when my beautiful wife is in town, she never misses out on her favorite TV shows because I'm able to pay up all my TV subscriptions from the comfort of my mobile phone. Whenever she has to get groceries too, my bank makes it cashless and convenient. And the part my wife loves the most is when my bank makes it possible and easy for her to shop from any part of the world without moving.
Welcome to the smart world of EcoBank. Download EcoBank Mobile from Google Play Store or the App Store and discover the smart way to bank. EcoBank, the Pan-African Bank.
And thank you very much for staying with us here on PM Express. And remember, PM Express is always brought to you by Syntex Tanks, also brought to you by Cherry Tree Properties, Alomo Bitters, and by the Ghana AIDS Commission. And no matter your water needs, Syntex Tanks has it all. Syntex Tanks is first to introduce the double layer tank, and now you can have as many layers as you want. Syntex Tanks is first to introduce the white inner layer tanks in Ghana. We now also introduce you the customer specs order. It is bespoke. You can order your size, your color, and just call them with your preference. Syntex tanks gives you the longest warranty of 7 years, which no other tank gives you in Ghana. So whatever your water consumption, size, or project or demand, just choose Syntex tanks. They are nationwide. You can call them on 0244 335 168, 0244 335 168, or shop online at syntexgh.com. Syntex tank, a strong, a tough. Also, desires are wishes. Beauty is a promise of happiness, but passion is everything. And that is why you need to call Cherry Tree Properties, because if you're thinking about a new home, talk to those who build with passion. They have Sloane Square. It's a new gated community development in Sakomono, developed by Cherry Tree Properties, a one-of-a-kind planned luxury you've never experienced. Please call them on 0553 662 366, 0553 662 366. Cherry Tree Properties, sophistication and class. My guest is still Yaw Nsarkoh, who has been talking to me about Ghana. Let's stay on that theme, shall we? Before the break, I mentioned the chieftaincy institution, and you touched on it also. What's your view? What's your view on the institution? It's predated our democracy, so it held us up when we didn't have the democracy that we currently have today. Is it still serving that purpose?
I think it's a vitally important institution in the sense that it is something that people identify with. They understand it as part of their social fabric. We can sit in places like this and think that it has no significance, but it does. But what we have to have a conversation about is that with the ambition of a Republican democracy going into the future, what is exactly the role that chiefs are supposed to play? And this is not an antagonistic question, it's not an antagonistic conversation, it's just something that we all need to have as people who are stakeholders in society to define that role so that we are absolutely clear. And in the speech I gave a few examples of where I felt that sometimes the borders and the boundaries were not being properly respected, and if we don't have an open conversation about it, it can one day lead to a conflict that we do not want.
And I want to circle back to, we've talked a lot about the Ghana problem, but some also say there's been some real good progress too. At least we are lower middle income. I mean, we used to be, on the lower end of that particular scale. I was just checking the automobile industry right now is estimated to grow to around 10 billion by 2027. It's currently around 4.6 billion on the back of policies introduced recently that had brought in a lot of the global giants into the country. At least they're assembling, but they're creating jobs. Factories have been opened here, Hyundai, etc. So there's been some progress. You acknowledge that? That this progress is there, and all we need to do is to build on that and scale up?
Even in my speech, I did say that, for example, milk consumption numbers had risen. So per capita, my intention was not to say that everything in the country has not gone right now. But is that what we want? Yes, milk per capita consumption has gone up, but compare it to what others have. So if that's what we want as an ambition, that we wake up in the morning, we breathe, that is progress, because you're waking up in the morning and you breathe. That too is some progress. If that's what we want, then let's sit down and be happy with where we are. But I also try to point out that in 1966, my friend Kwame Sapon-Asiedu gave me the data, 3.2% of our population was above the age of 60. 57 years later, 3.6% of our population is above the age of 60. We have moved by 40 basis points. In 20 years, open defecation, we brought it down by less than 400 basis points. So these two are metrics that we must be looking at, not just counting the number of automobiles or the market value of automobiles and be happy. I'm not saying that those indicators must be ignored, but I'm saying they do not describe the entirety of society.
So tell me, when you say the greater role for the state, what does that look like for a country like Ghana?
The judiciary must work for everybody. We must have access.
And back to the point, what's your dream? What's your Ghanaian dream? Define it for me in a few words.
It's in the directive principles of state policy. And I've said again and again.
How does it crystallize for you?
More liberty, more egalitarian opportunity, more fraternity, all of that leading to prosperity and dignity. That is my dream for the majority of our people. Not for a small group of people who sit down and they alone have the spoils of power. No. This democracy, in its most meaningful incarnation.